Talking with the experts.
Ron Bauer helps founders launch, grow and exit their business by teaching them how to prepare themselves properly and package their ideas in episode 393.
It's insane. You can set up a business for under $1,000 today with a company, a website, a bank account, all your social media channels. You can go and connect with, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, if you put your mind to it. The opportunities to go and create, a podcast, like a podcast like you have, or like me being a guest on a podcast, and use that as a platform to get your message out to, hundreds of thousands, if millions of people. No one's buying newspapers anymore. You see it. Everyone's, news is now at your fingertip. Before, there were no digital media platforms. You wanted to get news, you had to find newspapers or scanning companies or this. It was today, you can click on CNN, whatever, CNBC, Washington Post, New York Times, everything, so it's really, information is at your fingertip and it's free. And
Talking with the experts.
Talking with the Experts would love to acknowledge Global Glamping Charities Incorporated for generously supporting this podcast. Global Glamping Charities, solving homelessness in all of its forms. Reach out to them at globalglamping.org.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And my next guest is Ron Bauer, and he is going to be discussing raising money in a digital world. Now, Ron is a VC, whatever that means, I don't know, vice captain. There you go. With
venture capitalist.
Thank you, venture capitalist, 20 years experience. He is focused on biotech, tech, fintech, SaaS and metaverse. Ron was the founder of Turkana Energy, which merged with Africa Oil in 2009. It had a market cap of over $3 billion. Ron holds a Master of Business Administration degree from the University of Cambridge. Welcome, Ron. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast.
Thank you. So you have helped founders launch, grow, and exit their businesses by teaching them to prepare themselves properly and package their ideas and businesses in order to raise money and plan for merger or trade sales. How do you go about doing that?
Wow, there's so many ways. I've worked with companies that have come up with back of the envelope idea. It could be anything from you have this idea in your head and you want to launch a business and create a business, to companies that have been around for 25 to 30 years and they're a mature business and they tried to go public, but they hit, the wrong time in the market, or they had the wrong consultant. So, I have a process, I have a roadmap that I've developed over the past 20 years. And it's a process where I work with founders on a step-by-step process. And that process includes, first, I like to look at the idea and work with the founder to understand, what is your idea? What sets you apart? What makes you different? And sort of pinpoint their sort of process, their main idea and the main crux of their business. And then what I like to do is I like to work with them on their branding and on trademarks or patents. I mean, you'd be surprised, Rose, how many people I work with that have had businesses, they've started generating revenue, and they haven't even thought about patents or trademarks around their business to protect their business or their idea, their life's idea. So I work with them find them a trademark and patent attorney, work on getting their IP patented. And then I sort of help them develop the idea around what's the right jurisdiction. Sometimes people have a business in, Australia, where you're based in, but the majority of their business is online and it comes from the US or it comes internationally, and they don't have to be incorporated in Australia. There's more tax efficient ways. So I introduced them to a wide array of consultants that could be, lawyers, auditors, accountants, help structure where the deal is. Also, if you're looking to raise money from investors in the US, a lot of the time, even though you're not based in the US, they want a special purpose vehicle. They want a company that's a US company for their own purposes. They want to invest in dollars for a currency hedge. They want the jurisdiction to be in the US for legality reasons in case there's ever, litigation or they have to sue. They don't want to have to go now and retain a lawyer across the halfway across the world, if not the entire world, to go and litigate someone. So there's a whole wide array of things. That's sort of, I get into 3 or 4 steps even before we get into the raising money. And then I like to work on their investor materials. That's sort of the most important thing. People have a great idea, Rose. They spend all this time on a fantastic idea. They raise money from friends and family or angel investors, and they want to start a business. And their investor materials are garbage. They just look rubbish. And so you'd be surprised. I tell people right away, hire a copywriter. No, 9 out of 10 people I speak to, they don't even know. They think a copywriter is for writing a speech or for working on articles. They don't even think about an investor presentation, how important that is. That's your business card to investors. Mm-hmm. And so I like to put together what I have 6 pieces of information, which I call my collateral materials. Those are the investor suite of materials. That's your executive summary, investor presentation, a business plan, a financial model, a corporate website, a corporate video. I like to package those 6 pieces of information. You really don't need that much to prepare it. It's inexpensive and it's not as time consuming. You need a great copywriter. You need a photographer. So, what I hate when people have just stock images and they don't have real photos. Go out on a day with a photographer, get real pictures. So copywriter, photographer, you need a videographer who could be the photographer at the same time. A web designer, graphic designer is the most important, obviously, to do the design of your materials and your website. And you also want to have a uniform look across all of the pieces of information. So those are sort of the initial people you need to get your investor materials going. And I find that when we're at that stage, then we're sort of ready to raise money.
Yeah. And so I guess, what makes it different raising money in the digital world rather than just in the bricks and mortar world?
COVID changed everything. In all fairness, no one was really doing meetings over Zoom or Teams or Google Meets. It was, it was really more internal type meetings for companies and people internally. You never thought you would conduct an investor roadshow over Zoom. And what happened during COVID is people couldn't travel. They could not go. The traditional way of raising money was you called up an investor, you emailed an investor, you hired a bank. Let's say if you were cold calling people, you weren't going public. So you would cold call an investor, you'd email them, you'd speak to them, you'd cold call them, you'd get on the phone with them, you'd set a time, you would fly to their city. You might make 4 or 5 meetings a day if you're in New York or LA or Sydney or London or wherever. And it was a journey of, it could be 3 or 4 trips, depending on, you'd have your North American trip to the US and Canada, you'd have your trip to Europe, you'd have your trip to Australasia with Australia and let's say Hong Kong, Singapore. And so you'd have like 4 or 5 trips to hit investors, and you still, the cost of that, flying, hotels, entertaining, meeting people, not knowing whether people are going to show up to meetings or stand you up or not, or have change of plans or be sick. There's a big burden on CEOs, and it takes away time from founders that want to grow their business. And now in the modern age of, you prepare all your investor materials, you put it in a Dropbox folder, you email someone a link. They're not worried about their email being stuffed with 50 mega files and getting all pissed off because you jammed up their server. They can click on a thing, look at your video, look at your website, look at your materials. Now you set up a meeting on Zooms or Teams or Google Meets, whatever platform you prefer and feel comfortable with. And you can hold an investor roadshow on Zoom, 8 to 10 people in a day. I mean, you can knock out in a week 30 to 50 meetings that were impossible. You couldn't do that even in a month if you were traveling. And the cost of it allows you to stay in your office, be focused. In between meetings, you can still do a bit of work and take care of business. You've got your family you can see in the morning and the evening. You're not away from, friends and family. And I just think that a lot of people say it's impersonal. I think it's actually better because you can connect with a lot more people. And more importantly, during COVID, what happened is there was a catastrophic shift of investor sentiment too. Investors are like, I can see 10 companies in a week instead of, I can see more. I could see, 30, 40 companies in a week instead of, let's say, 5 to 10. I also don't want, as an investor, to have to do all this small talk and entertain people and take them around. And the last thing is, I don't want some guy coming from Sydney or from London or from Tel Aviv flying into my office now. Who knows how many people he interacted with, 1,000 people on his journey. And now he's going to get me sick. I've got kids, grandkids, wife, friends, other commitments. I don't want to get sick. And so during COVID, it's now more or less the norm. Less and less companies and founders are doing face-to-face roadshows. They're doing a roadshow on a digital platform to raise money, and then they're meeting up with investors afterwards once they're committed or once they're in the deal. So I think there's been a paramount shift to that's what I would call raising money in a digital world. You're able to email and send links and videos. You can do your roadshow meetings on virtual platforms. I'm also seeing use now of metaverse environments. People are creating these virtual metaverse environments that everyone thinks the metaverse is for gaming or for education. And that's true. It's a big majority of it is gaming and education, but there's a whole element around events, and the platforms that were used for events are starting to transform into these virtual environments for companies. And you're seeing more and more companies are building they're taking their headquarters and with architects and designers rebuilding it in the metaverse on some of these platforms. It's not just stores, companies like Gucci or Nike or other ones having these virtual environments. It's companies like Schlumberger and other large multinationals that are saying, okay, we have employees and people and investors and colleagues all around the world. Instead of having, phone calls or Zoom calls, let's create this interactive environment where people can wear a headset, or they can log in through their computer and create, an avatar, and it's going to transform virtual meetings. The whole virtual meeting environment will be transformed by the metaverse. So I think that's my take on, raising money in a digital world is really using all these platforms and media platforms and digital means to your advantage as a founder. And, the biggest thing I hear from people is that, oh, it's so difficult now to set up a company and to raise money. I'm a traditional VC, a traditional venture capitalist. I come out of the environment, the bricks and mortar environment. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. I come out of the environment where you had to pick up the phone, dial for dollars, you had to cold call people, dial for dollars. You were getting like 2 meetings out of 100 calls. You were getting rejected left, right, and center. You had to pitch companies. You had to find your own opportunities and create your own opportunities and find ways to raise money and bootstrap, and then go and access the capital markets. Today, you couldn't set up a company without, it was tens of thousands of dollars to set up a company, tens of thousands to set up a website. There was no social media. Cell phones were new. There was no digital marketing. There wasn't even email marketing. You had fax machines. I mean, nowadays, the opportunities available to Gen Z, to these millennials, to the current, call it, generation of founders and startup entrepreneurs is insane. You can set up a business for under $1,000 today with a company, a website, a bank account, all your social media channels. You can go and connect with, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, if you put your mind to it. The opportunities to go and create, a podcast, like a podcast like you have, or like me being a guest on a podcast, and use that as a platform to get your message out to, hundreds of thousands, if millions of people. No one's buying newspapers anymore. You see it. Everyone's, news is now at your fingertip. Before, there were no digital media platforms. You wanted to get news, you had to find newspapers or scanning companies or this. It was today, you can click on CNN, whatever, CNBC, Washington Post, New York Times, everything, so it's really, information is at your fingertip and it's free. And your ability to set up a business and to generate leads and to create a buzz around your business and momentum is so much easier today. There's these new professions that never existed when I was starting out in a business, like social media managers or content creators, or spin-offs of public relations and investor relations that are dealing with digital media, or digital marketing agencies. They didn't exist. Now you have metaverse agencies to take. Before, you had companies that would take you on a regular website, then you had Web 2.0, which included social media, and now you have Web 3.0, which includes metaverse and augmented reality and virtual reality. So the world's changing at super fast paces.
Oh, absolutely. There's been just so much change in the last 2 years. And I think, that is one of the things that we need to be thankful to COVID for, because we wouldn't be in this space and time if COVID hadn't come and disrupted everything, because we've had to look at different ways now to be innovative and further our businesses. And, as you say, get funding for our businesses and our ideas and our thoughts and products. But now I have a friend who is into connecting people, and she's more on a personal level, and she's trying to do away with digital marketing and digital meetings and all that. And to me, I think person to person has its benefits, but you're right, having to travel from country to country to get investors or have meetings with people, it's ridiculous. And the digital way to me is so much easier. You just send someone a link and you can talk to them, and I don't think there's anything impersonal about it, because you're not in the same room, and you can't do the touchy-feely things like shake hands and do whatever, but you can still see people, you can see their faces. So what's the difference? I don't see. I think, progressing the way we are is a great way to go. And this was all like when Dick Tracy was a boy.
No, for sure. And I think, honestly, I think the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages. I understand some people, they want to make small talk, they want to build rapport, they want to go out and have fun, and they want to have this relationship building. And the problem with that is, and you see it with banks now, before, your bank manager or your representative at the bank would take you out for lunch or take you for dinner, or you'd get invited to an event or a concert. And now they're not allowed to do that anymore, because it's seen as, you're trying to like buy clients or buy business. And so the world's become a little bit too politically correct and too much with this inclusive and diversity. And so I think that the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages. I think that, yes, okay, some of those relationships might be closer and the bond might be better if you go and you get drunk with someone you're about to do a deal with, or you hit the town, or you go on holiday, or you spend like a weekend away at a retreat. I get that. I understand that. But, you can build those relationships later down the road. The difference is that as a founder who should be focused on growing their business and using investors' money in the business. I'm an investor in multiple startups. I would rather my founder is on the phone, every week, let's say 2 days, pitching like 50 people, and the other 3 days he's in the office or in his place, or he's on his computer communicating with his, people around the world, building his platform, working on software, working on marketing, then spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars of investors' money flying around the world, staying in hotels, entertaining investors that may or may not invest money. And, the investors are also, they understand, smart investors today understand that it's better use of capital on keeping the core executive team in the office or in front of the computer working and doing meetings digitally and remotely with investors. If people like your business, they're going to invest anyways. It doesn't matter whether they meet you over lunch or they meet you on Zoom, in my opinion.
No, I think, realistically, the body language is still there, and you can still see someone's face, and the connection is still there. I mean, either you like someone or you don't, and you can still do that over Zoom. So, what's the difference?
No, exactly. I agree with you.
Mm. So how would someone find an investor, in this digital market? That's an interesting thought.
There's so many ways. I mean, I've created this sort of idea called the investor journey. And I think that you first want to start with your own friends and family. I tell all founders, if you can't raise money from your own friends and family, then how do you expect to raise money from strangers? And I tell them, you don't need to raise $1 million, $2 million. Go to your parents, go to your aunts and uncles, go to your cousins, go to your siblings, go to your best friends, go to close friends. Sell them on your idea. Don't worry, it's okay. Rejection is good. It's good if people say, I don't have money, or I don't like your idea, or, I saw you, getting drunk at this party. Why would I trust you with my money? And, that's a common answer, could be an answer. And you have to just be willing to accept criticism and accept rejection. But, even if you raise 50 to 100 grand, it's still a good learning curve. It's a great learning curve for what's to come. And then, there's loads of angel and seed investor clubs. There's loads of these platforms for seed and angel investors or investment clubs. Google them wherever you're based, look them up, pitch them, apply to them. There's tons of them. There's, incubators and accelerators in each location where you are, or these tech camps, tons of them. Don't be shy to apply to them. And some of them may say, your idea sounds ridiculous, or it's too early stage for us, or, we've already done that. And that's okay. Lots of people have created businesses. Lyft came out after Uber. There's loads of food delivery companies that have raised billions of dollars. Like Just Eats came out after Uber Eats, and they're still a massive company, multi-billion-dollar business globally. So if you have a great idea that's a takeoff of an existing business, but you have a solution to a problem that you've encountered, don't worry if other people if you have that problem, you'll find other people with that problem. You'll find your own community. So I think friends and family, seed and angel investors, investment clubs, you can go and do a regulation crowdfunding. Every country has regulated crowdfunding platforms, whether you're in Canada, the US, the UK, Australia. I think it's really important. The US is a big one. You used to be able to raise up to $1,070,000 on regulated crowdfunding platforms. Now you're allowed to raise up to 5 million. So it's a great medium for raising startup capital. The advantage of crowdfunding platforms are you're raising, smaller amounts from thousands of investors. These platforms are regulated by the SEC and FINRA in the US. And they do their due diligence. And so if you're on a platform, it gives that, feeling of security to investors. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed to raise money. You still have to do your own marketing with social media and with marketing agencies to drive those investors to the platform. But it gives you a good start, and a good launch plan for your crowdfunding offering. So I think that's great. And then, once you get past the crowdfunding and you've raised money from friends and family, seed and angel, investment clubs, crowdfunding, then you sort of are getting into the big leagues of raising capital. And at that stage, if your business is doing well and is scaling up, and it's in the growth stage and growing, at that stage, I believe you're ready for an exit. And I don't mean an exit by selling your business or by merging it with someone else, but you're at the stage where you can retain a broker or an investment bank or someone to help you get prepared for an IPO. And at that stage, you might do a bridge round or a pre-IPO round. There's lots of terminologies and phrases people like to say. They like to call it a pre-IPO round or a bridge round or a private placement round and there's lots of ways of raising money. There's equity, there's debt, there's loads, and we won't get into that right now. But I think at that stage, you're sort of moving up to more, you're going to have a professional take your hand, a regulated broker or investment bank. They will come on, or what they like to call in America, an underwriter. And what they'll do is they'll sponsor your IPO and get you prepared, whether it's a straight IPO or a merger with a public company or, a SPAC, which has, become popular in recent years. And at that stage, you'll probably take you 6-7 months to a year and a half. You're anywhere from 6 months to 18 months to an IPO or a listing. lots of people say to me, oh, when they think of IPOs, they think of companies like Facebook, Meta, or Amazon, or Google, or, multi-billion-dollar companies. There's loads. As you know, Australia is like Canada or the UK. It's home to a buoyant and, jubilant and thriving junior market with lots of small growth stocks, or what they like to call, growing penny stocks that have potential to become huge businesses. And there's been huge success stories in Australia, just like there have been in Canada and the US and the UK, with smaller companies going public with, 20, 30, 40, $50 million market caps and becoming billion-dollar companies. I've had a couple companies in that stage over the past 20 years. And, it is possible if you, put your mind to it, stay focused, to grow your business, to become a big business.
Interesting conversation. I've not really thought about doing it. So I'm a co-founder of a social enterprise, and we are looking for investors, and because we run annual pamper days for domestic violence survivors, and we've brainstormed. We are looking for investors to be able to do like a national with pamper days. But we just don't know where to go, how to start. So you've given me some ideas now. So
No, for sure. And there's a lot of spin-off, a lot of these social enterprises in the UK are what they call B Corps in America, which is like a social enterprise. A lot of them are looking at creative ideas. Some of them have great ideas. Like I'm mentoring a founder of a social enterprise in the UK. They were working with ex-offenders and prisoners doing, augmented reality textbooks and virtual reality headsets in prisons in the UK to help retrain prisoners coming out of the system, so they don't repeat offend and go back in the system. And they're working with Department of Works in the UK, Ministry of Justice, Her Majesty's Prison, and just a great idea. And they came to me and said, look, we're funded by grants and by donations and by charitable giving to do these programs, and the governments give us a little bit of grants here and there. But it's a huge opportunity for a business around using the metaverse and using virtual reality as education to take this on a larger scale. And I said, they came to me for advice on, if we raise capital, how would we grow this business? And, they had an opportunity to expand in the US, but didn't have the capital. And, I sort of spent time with the founder and created a roadmap for them. And now they're off, raising money to expand this business in the US, which is a huge problem there with overpopulation of prisoners, and a huge issue with recidivism, and lots of social enterprises that are looking for ways to help families and help these offenders find. A lot of the times people just are born in the wrong situation. They've lost the lottery of life, unfortunately, and they come from the fringes, and now they're given an opportunity to find a way to set up a business and grow a business. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities in places where people think if you turn the stone over, you'll find opportunity anywhere.
So you've given me some really great ideas. So I'll take those to my partner and the other co-founder, and we'll have a discussion on that, and because you brought up things that we hadn't thought of. So
sure,
thanks for the conversation.
Any help, any advice, reach out. Happy to help you anytime.
Where can people find you if they want to work with you or find out more about the digital investments?
I'm super easy to find. I'm happy to speak with anyone. Some of my best opportunities, people have cold called me or emailed me or reached out to me on social media, and some of my best deals and my best partnerships and friendships have come that way. So I've given you all my social media, but my Instagram is @RonBauer888. If you go on my Instagram, there'll be a link to Linktree, and you can click on that link there, and you can find me on, all the channels: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. I'm everywhere. I have, a great social media manager that takes care of everything. So everything is updated. If you go to my website, www.thescapital.com, THES capital CAPITAL.com. There's a link there to book an appointment with my team and I. You can book an appointment. We're happy to hear about your business idea, give you complimentary advice, and if you want to work with us, great. If if it's not the right time and you just want some advice, happy to spend a little bit of time and give you my open advice. And it would be great to connect with everyone. And Rose, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's been a great conversation, and I enjoyed speaking with you.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Ron. Tell me, have you got any words of wisdom that you'd like to share, or some quote or a bit of tidbit, or have you written a book, or any of those
Great words of wisdom. Yeah, definitely. I think probably the best piece of, so I've actually written 3 books, believe it or not, and it started during COVID. The first book I wrote during COVID, and it was supposed to come out, and all the advice I gave people in that book, I didn't follow it myself. So before I published the books, I said I can't publish a book where I'm not even following my own advice. So what I did is I've gone back to the drawing board. We're working on it with my editors and publisher, and it will come out in the spring in the new year. But I wrote another book which is coming out around the holiday time, which is called Exit Plan, and that's how to raise money and go public. And then I have another book which is about launching a business, and bootstrapping it, which will also come out hopefully in the new year in January. But my biggest advice I tell founders is, be focused. Don't try to be, jack of all trades, master of nothing. Be really good at one thing or 2 things and be super hyper focused on that one thing that you're really good at. And you can find other people to help you or complement what you're missing. You can recruit people, you can bring them in, but be the best at what you do. If you studied 15 years to be, a scientist, and you're working on a cure for a disease, and that's your area of focus on that. Be the best at that. If you're working on a SaaS platform, like a software as a service, a fintech platform, and you've come up with a solution to a problem that you've encountered, and you're an expert in that area, then just focus on that. And you see some of the greatest deals and some of the biggest and most successful companies, they were focused on one thing, and then they expanded. Like Amazon was the best online platform to buy books. That's what he started out as. And then the platform was so good that he realized we could use it for anything from buying socks to underwear to water to tequila, depending on where in the world you are. And Facebook, Facebook started out as a social media platform to connect college kids and to connect people. And they realized they kept expanding and expanding. They didn't even have a way to make money. No one understood how are they ever going to make money, but they connected hundreds of millions, if not, close to 1 trillion people. And the advantage of that is that he built something that now you could all of a sudden turn it upside down, and it became a marketing platform, and revenue in the billions. Same with Google. Google became a search engine, but then they expanded into email, and then they expanded into using their search engine into marketing means, pay-per-clicks, advertising. Same with Microsoft. It started as an operating system. He was a really was an operating system for, a Windows operating system for PCs. We didn't have Macs then. Apple started as an alternative computer to people that did not want a PC. They wanted this cool looking, easy to use operating system and computer that was an alternative to the PC, almost like electric cars to petrol cars. So I think if you're focused and you're really good at what you do, don't worry about making money. The money will come. It will come to you. So that's my advice is be really focused and be good at one thing.
Great advice. We tell that to our children. Focus on one thing at a time.
No, exactly. We do.
Ron, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've learned really quite a lot from you. So, thank you for that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Lovely. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.